You know, last week we had a situation at the house which was kind of interesting. We live in a section of Long Island, and the way the electricity runs, there is one of, they call them a can, and that's where all the electricity goes into. And if anything happens along any of the wires in that area, the can goes out, all the light goes out for like a 4-block radius. It's rather entertaining, to say the very least. Anyway, the other day, we're in the house and we're watching TV and stuff, and you hear the loud pop. And you go outside, and you realize you're not the only one going outside. It's the one time you see all your neighbors, because everyone walks out on the street trying to figure out where all the electricity went to. And you're all sort of standing around. And then you wait anxiously. And now, there is an app that the electric company gives you. So it tells you when your electric should be back on. And so they keep texting you like every hour saying, trucks are on the way, and a regular update. During that, I don't know, maybe it was like 3 or 4 hours that we didn't have electricity, it's painful, right? Because you're so used to doing what you always do, and you're used to having access, and I'm used to having air conditioning, And when all of those things are taken away, it becomes more challenging. But what if we did not realize what electricity actually is capable of doing? What if we had the ability of being plugged into electricity, that all it meant was turning on a switch? But what if we didn't understand what that was, and what that power and force was, and how it can impact and benefit and change our lives? I share some of this because I'm wondering, and I've been thinking about this quite a while now, that as Christians, is it possible that we are not really aware of the Spirit and the presence of Jesus Christ that resides inside of us, that actually presides in our very selves? And is there a switch that you and I have yet to turn on yet, to recognize all of the power and the force and the grace and the mercy and the authority that is given to us by Jesus? Do we often pass by the switch without realizing that we really should turn it on and see what it can do? The interesting thing about all this is really the fact that the reading that Tom read is intriguing to me, and I really just can't get over this one part, right? So Saul at the time, who becomes Paul, but Saul is running around and he is persecuting all the Christians, and he is loving every minute of it. As a Pharisee, he is committed to the scriptures, and he believes that this is an abhorrence to what they believe, and that God is nowhere part of any of that. And so he runs around and starts doing that of himself. But then he goes to the high priest, and he wants a letter giving him permission to go synagogue to synagogue to actually find and root out and to torture, persecute, and kill anyone who bears the name of Jesus, or who believes in this Jesus of Nazareth. He leaves on his way to Damascus holding the citation that gives him that power and that authority to go. And we know the story that he gets knocked off the horse. There's a bright light, and there's a conversation that takes place. But did you notice Jesus doesn't say to Paul, when Paul says, who are you? Like, what are you doing? Who are you that I'm offending you? And Jesus's words are, I'm not Jesus of the one who my disciples believe in. I'm not Jesus, the founder of religion or tradition. He makes it perfectly clear. I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. There is no distinction in Jesus' declaration between himself and his disciples. His disciples are him, and he is his disciples. He's not going to Paul saying, stop picking on my people. He's saying, stop abusing and persecuting me. And that type of a connection between discipleship and Jesus is something I'm wondering whether or not we actually really pay attention to. And if that is exactly the way Jesus identifies himself, what is the power and the authority that resides in our souls by the very nature of our faith that should be turned on and used more often But this isn't what we often hear. This isn't what we're often taught, that there's more that we should and can be doing as Christians, not by our own authority, by actually working the authority that is already inside of us because of Jesus' profound presence. But I'm wondering whether or not, one, if we've never been taught, how do we know to go over and turn on that switch? And two, what is it that that switch can do? What is it that we have the ability to be doing that perhaps we're not? We started a conversation a couple weeks ago about, Abraham, and we talked about how Abraham has a relationship with God. He is righteous in God's eyes, not because he's following any laws or rules or regulations. There are none. Abraham simply has belief that there is this God. And that belief is the foundation of their relationship. And that belief is enough for God to declare that Abraham is righteous. And then we go to Moses, and in and through Moses there is the law, but through that law there is the inability for man to come any closer, humanity to come any closer to God, because we're never able to keep the law as much as we would want. As much as we strive and struggle along the way, humanity simply cannot redeem and save itself. So in the end, God already knows this and sends about who? Not a book, not rules, not regulations, not directions, not guidance on how to be in relationship with me. He doesn't, tell you to go to a sacred spot on the place of the earth and pray. Doesn't do any of that. What does he do? He sends nothing less than his own son. And his own son then, in his words and in his actions and in his teachings, is meant to highlight for us exactly what is it that God thinks about us, what is it that God feels about us, and who are we in God's eyes. And we've talked about this time and time again, that I think the biggest challenge for us as Christians is to stop seeing ourselves the way other people identify us to be, or society defines us to be, or even we ourselves think of ourselves to be, but can we actually be in the presence of Jesus and allow Jesus to reveal to us how he sees us? And can we live and build our lives on that reality? Last week, we talked about how Jesus was at this dinner with the scribes and the Pharisees, and all through that process, at the end, he ends up talking about bringing the poor, bringing those who are not able, bringing those who are despised, those who cannot pay you back. Jesus clearly is incredibly comfortable with people that society today would tell us that we shouldn't hang around with. Jesus spent most of his time around people and was very comfortable with sinners and outcasts and prostitutes and tax collectors. Though I think we like the IRS probably a little bit better now than they did then. But the fact of the matter, maybe not much, but whatever the case might be. But still, Jesus is very comfortable around a group of people and a part of marginalized society, that the rest of the people of his day would simply not have been attracted to. Why is that important? Because if Jesus, in his physical time here on earth, is spending this time with these outcasts, with people who are not worthy, who are not religious, who are not very good at keeping the law, and are stumbling and struggling along the way, are sinners and social outcasts, then why is it so hard for us to believe that in and through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, after his resurrection and after his ascension, that his Spirit would not be comfortable residing within us? Because his actions on earth showed that he was very comfortable around the ragamuffins of life. And yet, at the same time, we always have a problem believing that we could possibly be ever worthy. And I'm wondering if that is the point that stops us from flipping the switch, because we don't believe that we're worthy to have Jesus within us. We don't believe that that's even possible, that God would love us this much, that his Spirit would reside. So is it possible that there is this electricity, spiritual power that is available within inside of us that we haven't turned on because we're afraid of flipping the switch, or we just don't know any better?
Hi, just wanted to thank you so much for watching the video. We hope that what you're coming away with is inspirational and a guide for your life. We're really glad you could be part of our community. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so that you can be continually updated with our new music videos, our new sermons, our new services that are published so that you could stay connected with us. Thanks so much again. God bless you.